You know, pain is a lonesome place. I don't have to tell you, do I? It'll drop a rock in your stomach right through your pounding heart. And when your knees are so weak, you hit the ground and you finally realize you don't got this. Well, now you might just make it. You see, the tallest tree may not weather the storm, but its roots do. So dig in, stand up, and let the wind blow. Because there's hope.
All right, y'all, we are, as I said just a moment ago, we're in the midst of this series called Hope in the Dark, a 3-week series. This week, remember last week we were in a book called Habakkuk. This week we're going to be in Genesis, but I want to share with you all the story of struggle and overcoming. This week it's about new identity. Some of you all know the story, the parable of the first century Jewish rabbi. On this particular day, the rabbi was off working in a distant village, and he notices that the sun is starting to set. It's getting darker. And so he quickly gathers up his supplies and he starts to make his journey back home. And he winds around the Sea of Galilee and he goes off into the woods. And by this time, he's noticing that the sun has gone completely down and it is completely dark. And in the darkness, he takes a wrong turn. Instead of turning right, he turns left. And instead of ending up at the gates of Damascus, he instead ends up at the gates of a Roman fortress. And when he gets there, this loud, booming voice shouts down at him, "Who are you and why are you here?" And the rabbi's startled. He looks around and he can't figure out where this is coming from. And finally he looks up and he notices there's a Roman guard on top of the fortress. And again, the voice shouts down to him in this booming voice, "Who are you and why are you here?" Now, every good rabbi responds to questions with a question. So the rabbi responds, "How much are they paying you to ask me those two questions?" To which the Roman guard responds, 5 drachmas per week. To which the rabbi responds, "I'll tell you what, if you come down from there and come back home with me and stand at my front door every single morning and ask me those same 2 questions, I'll double your pay." Who are you and why are you here? You see, your life is a story, and every good story consists of story turns. And the question becomes, what do we do with the defining moments in our life? Because see, y'all, your life, it's like this timeline, and from the time you were born until the time you die, you are going to experience positive and negative turns, moments of great joy and celebration, moments when life is really good, but you're also going to have moments when things are really hard. When life is hard, moments of grief and loss and heartache. And what do we do with those defining moments? Particularly the moments of mess and brokenness, when everything feels like it's been turned upside down, when things are dark. You see, I know what to do with the positive stuff, the positive turns, but what about the stuff down here? And see, if I don't know where I've been, then I don't have a clue who I am and why I'm here. And see, if we want to get to hope in the dark, we have to know who we are and why we're here. And in recovery, I started working through my story. And I thought all this stuff up here, all the positive stuff, that was the sacred parts of my story. And those would be the parts that I was really proud of. And those would be the pieces of my story that I'd really want to hang on to. But see, what I found was all of it is holy and sacred, even the parts of your past that make you want to cringe. Like when you remember these moments, you want to do one of these. All of life is a holy, sacred gift. And my brothers and sisters, what you do with this gift matters. There's a place in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, that says, and it's just a couple of sentences, it's a couple of lines, and here we have it on the screen for you, but it says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed. So if we continue doing the work, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And I can't tell y'all how many people come to me and say, Pastor, but see, you don't know the places I've been. You don't know where I've been. Or they say, Pastor, you don't know some of the things I've done. Oh, you don't know. No, you're right, I don't know. But what I do know is you are not your past. There's a way out of that shame. And if you do the work with God, you won't regret your past, because you will realize somewhere along the way that your past is actually helping to shape who you are. It's helping to shape your identity. So for just a couple of minutes, I want to share with you one of my favorite stories in the scriptures. It is a story about a guy named Jacob, and it comes from this book called Genesis. It's the very first book in the Bible. It's the first book of the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible. It comes from chapter 32. I actually have this, I don't know if y'all can see, I have this story tattooed on my arm. I told the story of that tattoo earlier today on social media. You can go to my Facebook page or Instagram page and see that if you're interested. It's one of my favorite stories. It's a defining story in my life, a transformative story, but it's told in Genesis chapter 32. And here's the backstory to Jacob. You see, Jacob had a brother, an older brother named Esau, and their father was Isaac. And Isaac was literally on his deathbed. He was dying, and the text tells us that he was losing his sight. And Isaac says to Esau, his oldest son, he says, I want you to go out and do a hunt, get some food, prepare a meal for me, and then I'm going to bless you. And y'all have to understand, a blessing in the ancient world was a big deal, because it was when the father would say to the eldest son, look, son, everything I have is yours. Look around, all of it, it's yours. Now, Jacob hears this, and Jacob is angry because he wanted the blessing. So he came up with this elaborate plan, and he pulls his mom in on it. And he says, Mom, will you help me with something? Because see, Esau he's more hairy than I am, and I'm smooth skinned. This is what the text says. And his voice is different. And so maybe if you could help get some hair on me, like put a garment on me, and if you can prepare a meal, well then maybe I can trick Pops into giving me the blessing. So Jacob, with the help of his mom, puts on a disguise. He goes into his father's room. And Isaac, the father, says to Jacob, who are you? What's your name? Jacob says, Pops, it's me, man. It's your oldest son, Esau. And I've made what you've asked me to make, and I've got the food, so sit up and eat so you can go ahead and bless me. And y'all, it worked. Jacob steals the blessing, but here's the thing. Esau gets home, and Esau's furious. He's mad. He says to Jacob, man, I'm going to kill you. So Jacob is now on the run, running from his mess, his wrongdoings, running from his past, running from who he is. And here's where the story picks up. While he's on the run, he arrives at the banks of the Jabbok River. And so we're going to pick up on the story. It's on the screen for you. The story takes place in verses 22 through 32, but I'm just going to read a couple of verses to you, starting in 24. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. Now, most scholars believe that this man would have been signified the God character in the story. So we're going to go with that this man that Jacob's wrestling is God. And when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go until you bless me. He still wants the blessing. The man asked him, what is your name? Verse 27, let's just pause there for just a moment. What's your name? This question has a bit of history, doesn't it? Because see, when we meet Jacob earlier in the story, he's trying to deceive his father into thinking that he's actually the older brother Esau, so he could get the blessing from his father Isaac. But Isaac senses that something isn't right, and he asks, "Who are you? Who are you? What's your name?" Jacob responds, "Pops, it's me. I'm Esau, your oldest son." You see, Jacob's problem in life is he was trying to be someone else. You see, in the ancient world, your name, it was everything. It was your character, your history, your identity. Your name told your story. Your name told who you are. So when God asked Jacob, "What's your name?" what he's really being asked here is, "Who are you? Who are you?" And in the very next verse, we'll throw it on the screen for you, he responds, "Jacob," he answered. And the crowd roars because finally Jacob was ready to get honest. Jacob was owning who he was, his story. And then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. He got the blessing. So Jacob called that place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." And the sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. You see, when it comes to the hard stuff in your life, the moments of pain and brokenness, the negative turns, the stuff down here, the darkness, it is possible to come out and see light again. And here's the thing, you might come out with a limp, a permanent one. And the limp is there to stay. Don't try to get rid of the limp because, see, you need the limp. The limp reminds you you need God. The limp reminds you to stop running. Running isn't the way to freedom. It isn't the way to happiness. The limp is God's subtle whisper to you, "You are free. And everything I have is yours." Look around. Grace, forgiveness, love, compassion. Everything I have is yours. Who are you? Who are you? And how much of our pain comes from not knowing how to answer that question? Who are you? I mean, how much of our pain comes from comparing ourselves to other people, saying we're this rather than we're that? We try to be someone we're not. We try to be someone else. Who are you? And you see, I think when God looks at you, when God looks around, God sees a bunch of sons and daughters. And yeah, we say, "Yeah, but God, you don't know where I've been. You don't know the places I've been, and you don't know some of the things I've done. And if you did really know that, you wouldn't really want me around anyway." And I think God responds, yeah. You can keep telling yourself that, but I'm going to be there. And when you run, I'll be there. And when you want to wrestle it out, I'll be there too, and I'll do that with you too. And when you're tired and weary and can't go on anymore, I will be there to remind you that everything I have is yours. Look around. My brothers and sisters, is it time to stop running? Is it time to get honest and own your story? The God who's still there when you stop running, that's hope in the dark. The God who says you're no longer that, you are this, that's hope in the dark. The moment you realize you are not your past, but your past can help give life to other people, that is hope in the dark. And so I want to give you all an opportunity to engage, to take 45 seconds, take the next 45 seconds and engage the question, what things do you need to let go of in order to live into a new identity? What are the things you need to let go of? And maybe it's past relationships. Maybe it's circumstances that are outside of your control. Maybe it's past experiences, that those moments of your past that, again, they just make you want to cringe. They make you want to turn the other way. You want to forget those things. You want to shut the door on your past. What are the things you need to let go of in order to live into a new identity? So we're going to throw this question on the screen for you. You're going to have 45 seconds. And again, y'all, I know it's an act of vulnerability to let people in on your stuff. Let people in on some of your pain, some of your joy. But I encourage you to do it because it's how we remain community. It's how we give ourselves to one another. So take the next 45 seconds, engage this question, and then we'll come back. Thank you all for sharing, and just because we're stopping this moment doesn't mean you can't continue to engage that question. It's an important one. It's one we should engage throughout the week together. What things do we need to let go of? What things do we need to wrestle with God about and then come out with a new identity? Where do we need to hear the blessing like, look, my boy, stop running because all I have is yours? What are the things you need to let go of?